Damn, son, where'd you find this?
People don't be offended by the truth. They be offended because you called out the truth. Simple as that. They don't want to hear any other narrative that makes them look bad.
One thing I can't stand at this big grown age is somebody who acts like cause and effect does not exist. Like, yes, your actions caused this outcome. Yes, what you did lit the match. Like, why are you surprised and playing victim?
Guys, Chico, they never lie.
That's how you know somebody doesn't respect you. They listen to reply, not to be understood. They cut you off. They minimize what actually matters to you. They laugh at your boundaries, and then they call you sensitive when you try to hold the line. They show up late. They cancel last minute, forget the things you've told them, because in their world, your time, your energy, even your voice aren't a priority. They're just an option. You see, there are two kinds of people. Those who adjust when they realize they've actually hurt you, and those who expect you to adjust so they don't have to change. You don't need to be disrespected loudly to be disrespected deeply. Sometimes you'll see it. It's just in their tone, in their patterns, in the silence after you're known. Respect isn't what they say when they're watching. It's how they act when they think you'll tolerate it.
Yo, 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 yo. Good evening, peace and blessings, glory, praise, and honor to the Most High. Happy Monday, happy Monday. I hope all is well. Thank you guys for being here with us this evening. Shout outs to my poets, my writers, my content creators, all the in-betweens. Shout outs to Rob for this evening's topic. I look forward to this. I really do. Coach, as usual, grateful to have you here, sir. This is what we're going to do, man. Before we get into it, because I'm going to turn this one over real quick to Rob, man, because I feel like this is something that doesn't get discussed enough. And I want you to lead us on this one, bro. I see Sydney's in the studio. Her camera's blurry. All right, there she is. All right. Let me bring her up on the big screen. All right, good evening. Good evening.
New layout. I like the circle.
I'm experimenting. I'm experimenting with some stuff. But this is what I want to do. Rob, I'm gonna give you the big screen. I'm gonna come over here to the other side. Oh, you don't want that? All right, I'm gonna leave. All right. I got you. I got you, bro. Let's talk about it. Why is it hard to build a business from scratch? You want to kind of tell us, how you came up with this one? Like, what was pressing on your mind about this?
Oh, man, all day. Peace and blessings, everybody, man. Good to see y'all. Coach, what they do, man. Sydney, yeah. UD, peace, man. So over the last, let's say 10, 15 years, I sold t-shirts. I used to heat press T-shirts. I sold Organo Gold coffee under the franchise. I sold silver jewelry, silver tungsten, Swarovski crystals. Now I sell hair weave extensions, and then I'm trying to sell records. I hate to say trying to, because trying is lying. So when you say trying, I heard you kind of like lying. But I'm here to, sell these records. And to be honest with you, none of them has ever gotten off the ground. I could make a little bit of money here and there. Even off the hair, I was doing good, but then the pandemic slowed me down. And I'm always wondering, this is supposed to be a society where you could pull your bootstraps up and you could do things out the trunk and scale up and go from small business to big business. But then I'm realizing two things now. How much of it is karma, my karma, for me being a horrible individual for so long? Do I even need to do what I need to do? But then also I realized too that this is a place where first, I don't think too many people that made a fortune made it legally. And then second, this is a place where capital wise, you have to take a loan. Everybody wants you to take a loan, even to get a record deal. That's a loan, advance, code word for advance. So it's like, shout out Chef, shout out Squish, shout out Limitless. I'm wondering, you know what I mean? Like, because this is supposed to be a place where you could pull your bootstraps up if you have a quality product. This is supposed to be the place. That's what capitalism is, right? You got a high quality product or service. You're supposed to just be able to start with nothing, pull your bootstraps up. So I'm wondering, why is it so hard? Is it karma? Is it, you know what I mean? Is it gatekeepers? And right now I'm seeing, even with this government, and they have always been doing it, but if nothing else, I'm seeing that it's coming back to light, to where the gatekeeping is, they cutting everything. They starving their own people. You know what I mean? So this is it's a good and a bad time, because okay, they cutting resources, but that ain't nothing new to us. We've been functioning with nothing at the time. So I want to talk about this because at the end of the day, this is, to me, a good time for us to begin enterprising, because with all of we've already made it through so many challenges. We might as well scale up business-wise so that we can have something to leave to our children.
Man, I think the first thing would be the product, right? Is what type of product that you out here pushing, and then knowing the market, because knowing the market, then that means there goes the gatekeepers and they got the market cornered, right? Because it's also about marketing and everything else to that specific demographic, and all that stuff, like you mentioned earlier, takes resources. And with the small businesses, with the exception of our community, most of them start within their own community and they buy for themselves. And then they, build up and start that foundation solid within their own community, and then they work from the inside out. So that's something that we don't necessarily do. And then having a strong and a solid structured business plan. A lot of us don't do that as well, and didn't have the resources up until ChatGPT and halfway through COVID, when everybody was calling everybody and dropping plans on social media and everything else, and it spread like wildfire. But so limited resources, lack of education, and we're just so far behind the power curve. And then you just got to have a machine behind you, because with the resources, you need a bank. And if you play Monopoly, you know how it go. Baltic Ave ain't the same as having the yellows and 4 train stations. You know what I mean? So it's all about resources, location, and then that support system. And we don't have a lot of that stuff behind us, man. Like you said, traditionally it's talked about by taking out loans. And they say if you use your own money, you definitely don't know nothing about business. And I think a lot of us started out using our own money because we didn't have credit, and all those other things to go out and use somebody else's resources and their money. So that hence the lack of support that we have within the community. And when we start getting people to try to buy from us instead of trying to get stuff on favors and discounts and loans, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, I think you hit it on a lot of it, and I think all of it are factors. And then you just got to, start calling people out, man. Within the community, if you want to see better, you want to do better, you want to buy better, then got to do better investments.
To kind of go off of that, I've tried to start businesses in my past. I was never very much like, it wasn't like, this is my passion, this is the thing I want to do. So obviously I've never actually had a business. I've never started anything, but it was always like wishful thinking, like, I could do this and get whatever. I forgot exactly which businesses I wanted to do. I think one of them was an art business, which I'm like, kind of have that, I guess, because I do sell art, but I'm in a gallery and I don't have a website or anything like that. But even as a kid, I was always very much like, I'm gonna be one of those young entrepreneurs, and clearly that did not happen. And it's because, at least in my circumstance, which I know affects a lot of other people, two things actually. Networking is a huge aspect of starting a new business, and it's not an innate skill. Like, a lot of people think like, oh, networking is just asking your friends or asking your community or whatever to do something, but it doesn't come naturally for everyone, and it does take skill, because it like, starting a business is not just about like, hey, can you buy my stuff, or can you invest in my business, or can you blah blah blah. Like, you have to know how to write proposals. You need to know how to reach out to the community in a way that will actually offer value to the right people. You need to know who to go to, who to network with. You'll probably have to go to events to get acquainted with other people, see how other people are doing things. I know that's a big holdup for a lot of people, is people, sometimes ego gets in the way and people don't want to ask for help. And when you're starting a business, you really do need to consult with other people, successful owners and unsuccessful owners, to find out what did they do right, what did they do wrong, what are the possible pitfalls that I need to avoid. So you really need to get yourself out there and be humble with it too. It's very, very hard to start a business. I think, if I remember correctly, the statistics is like 75% of businesses fail in the first 5 years or something like that. Because if you aren't able to gather a consistent either flow of clientele or a dedicated customer base, you're not going to be successful, because you need people that are willing to either share about you and get the word out to a wide variety of people, or you're going to have people that are willing to come back consistently to provide you with a stream of income. Another aspect, which again is something that I really struggle with, going off of consistency, is you need consistency. Like, just like on social media with businesses, you need to be very, very consistent. You can't really, like, you can take time off, but at the very beginning, you basically have to be grinding all of the time. And to take breaks will possibly cause people to forget about you, leave your business, whatever. And it can cost you money. So you have to be as consistent as possible to maintain the business that you're starting. It does very much depend on the type of business you have. Like, if you're a shopkeeper, obviously you can have other employees working with you and stuff like that. But for example, if you're working at something like what you have, Coach, you're going to have to constantly be doing what you're doing all the time. And it's hard for people to do that because, one, a lot goes on in life. You're going to have other things that are like, oh man, I wish I could do this other thing, but you're going to have to make sacrifices for your business. It's kind of in the same way with your kids. Like, You're going to have to give up certain things that you enjoy doing or used to do all the time, because you have to dedicate that time to your business now. And you have to basically give up some of the stuff that you like to do. So yeah, I think consistency and networking are two things that are huge pitfalls for people, where they they underestimate the value of one, being broadly in the community, and then also making sure they dedicate their time, because people get bored of things, and if you don't push through that and continue on, you're just going to lose your business, or it's going to die off a bit. So yeah.
I want to go in a different direction real quick. Everybody made great points. I want to turn our attention to Hawk Tour Girl. Remember Hawk Tour Girl? Yeah, her. She was doing a public interview, just like we were speaking about earlier. And she said a couple of lines changed her life for 15 minutes. And they made her famous based off of sexual innuendo. That's a market that people tend to invest in a lot. She encapsulated everything that was said here from every angle. You're literally in a triangle right now. So from every talking point that y'all said, that is her. She's the perfect example of what you're talking about. She was an influencer. She wasn't even actually an influencer. She was just a random person on the street that just happened to be in front of a camera one day. She said what she said. She was a new face. Nobody saw her before. And before you know it, everybody got the whole voice things going on. They got the soundboard clipped up for her. She's on platforms having conversations about relationships and all of those different things, all over just that one thing. She didn't go and get educated. She wasn't reading the books. She wasn't sitting down with teams and different men and women about how to put money here and do this. She came up off of mere luck. And I think a lot of people, especially now, they're looking for that one moment, that one situation where they could put a video up and it just does everything that they ever could have imagined it doing. But the problem is, October Girl, she got everything that she asked for, even if she didn't ask for it. Now what? Now they want you on stage. Now they want you to tell jokes. They give you a podcast. She doesn't do well with the podcast. She gets on stage to perform and tell jokes. She's having a T.I. moment. You see, T.I. just gave up on it. He going back to rap. She thought she could just jump into it. She even tried the whole Bitcoin thing. And she lucky that she came out of that unscathed, because people were coming for her neck. People were invested. They said, oh, she doing something new with the Bitcoin. We're going to invest and put millions of dollars in it. And then it backfired. And a lot of people were angry. A lot of people were pissed. So with that being said, if you want to get into anything, just being famous or just being popular is not going to cut it. It don't matter how many followers you got. It don't matter how many likes or reposts you get. If you don't have those fundamentals down and you don't know how to move through all of this stuff, you're going to fall. You're going to fall on your face, especially if you ain't got a team. or you ain't got somebody that's holding you accountable. Not the yes men, not the people that's telling you that what you're doing is cool, knowing that it's not, it's sloppy. But you gotta have real people around you that's saying, nah, that ain't the move. We need to go back to the drawing board. I yield the mic.
I feel you. Same for that Catch Me Outside girl. Went on. Got right. You know? And I hear all the time, all it takes is that one person. You know, I ain't gonna lie, for me, logistics is a foreign language. I've never been great logistic. Coach said it, like you gotta be able to write a good business plan or whatever. My best thing I know how to do is hand to hand. I know how to get out. You know what I'm saying? I'm in my head, I'm still a corner boy. I'm gonna hit that corner, you know. I'm promoting. But I'm just seeing that it seems like every time, you know, you get a step up, you take 2 steps back. Or it's, you know, even for the music, it was make a good song. One good song could change your life. Then it was, oh, make a good video. Made a good video. And it was like, oh, now you need a website. It's like, all right, you know, okay, let's get. Then it got to, oh, you need $100,000. You need $400,000. You want to get on the radio? You need $400,000. It's like, man, if I had $400,000, I wouldn't be rapping. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't be rapping. I'd be living off the allowance of that. Because even right now, you know, real estate and all that right now, this is a lot of bad markets. So just you run into these barriers, and it gets so crazy to where I start feeling like, do I have it? Am I have it? And like I said, that's when I get to the karma. Like, okay, I did do this, that, this, and that. I probably should just be sitting on the couch right now. I don't need to be doing nothing. You need to go ahead before they air you out. You know what I'm saying? But then at the same time, like, I'm looking, and not to be comparing, I'm looking like, all right, well, you know, listen, I ain't it, but at the same time, I ain't do a lot of, I changed my ways. Let's do that. Let me say that. I changed my ways not to be knocking. You know what I mean? To where, what is the disconnect? And at the end of the day, a lot of times, I do realize it's capital. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times it's because, like Coach said, our culture has been broken apart for so long that it's hard for us to work together for free without any kind of benefits. And then when you're starting small, a lot of times you can't beat the prices or the services that these other people have. And, you know, people just kind of, so, you know, it's always a balance. I had to go through every emotion to where, is it me? Is it people hating? Is it? And I saw a podcast the other day from one of my friends, and they do a nonprofit to where they teach gun safety, they teach financial literacy, they teach to teenagers. And they said they receive a lot of hate for a lot of backlash. And I'm like, yo, y'all doing something positive. How does people hate? And in our culture, we just don't want to see it. Where it's like, so, you know, that's hard for me because we hit the Bible, we get in church Sunday, scream, hoop, holler. Then when we get out the church, we ready to crash into each other. We won't even let each other out the parking lot. You know what I'm saying? So we got all of these so-called woke people. We got all these knowledgeable people. And we can't get a leg up because we won't even support you. And the one thing I think in the Bible, it says, well, your people not going to support you. Dust your feet off 7 times. And it's like, bro, like Coach said, every other culture supports each other. When you talk about entertainment, a lot of the Europeans, they're not even talented, but they still go 2, 3, 4 times plat, 5 times, 6 times plat, selling books, they in movie, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, yo, you can't even hold a note, be like, so now I'm looking every other day, I'm like, oh, my music must be trash. I must be garbage. I don't have no skills and all of that. Then, you know, it gets to a time where you do have a full-time job, you're not able to push, you know, you're not able to, you know, put 40, 50 hours a week. And then at the same time, like you said, do you want to take that loan to where they calling you? You want to take an advance, 500,000. Now you calling me? Because I think that's what drove a lot of artists crazy to where it's New Year's Eve. I want to hang out with my family. Or so-and-so need a beat. You mean to tell me I can't hang with my family? No, if you don't come into the studio and make this beat, you will breach a contract. Or if I stop doing music, now you want my McDonald's money. So, you know, I'm always back and forth, you know what I'm saying, to try to balance it out so that I don't go crazy and then I find a way. Can you really do it from scratch? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think, man, it's funny listening to you say that, not laughing at you, but laughing at the examples and stuff, because everybody you talk to, man, that's a 1099 employee, and that's essentially what you are when you own your own business. 1099, get your LLC, S Corp, C Corp, whatever it is, whether you starting a, you know, something for your family, because we briefly touched on generational wealth earlier and those type of things. And it just goes back to the education piece, man. And what happens is we get caught up in the moment of being workers and not business owners. And there's a difference, right? Because everything we talked about is work-related problems. We haven't talked about anything about the issues of owning a business. So again, it goes back down to it. It's a difference between the talent and the management. And if you know what I mean, you can be a player coach, but you don't hear the success stories as much. And with this generation, and that's some of the things you do learn, is they learned a lot of things from people. We just use rap because you mentioned that they, you know, they learn a lot more, and they're not necessarily going through a lot of the trials and tribulations. But you take it off rap and you put it on real estate because you mentioned real estate. So people are going through a lot of things with that, you know, especially young realtors. Average realtor graduating realtor school, they ain't making it past 18 to 24 months. And that's, again, your own business. And then why is that? So I think people are confusing with having a business and having a job. And having a business, a lot of small owners of small businesses, you'll see CEO. They'll put their name CEO on there. What the hell are you the CEO of? Now, if you actually get to a point, you make contact with an actual company that has so here's the thing. They have C-suite execs. You got small business owners between 250 to 6 million. There's categories to it. There's levels to it. So if you're labeling yourself as a C-suite exec and you own a $50 LLC and a bunch of certificates, you're not really a CEO. So if you happen to contact the company and you're talking to their assistant and you're the CEO, that's probably telling you that so things aren't necessarily lined up underneath your LLC as they should be, right? You know, so it makes it harder for you to have those conversations to talk about sponsors. You know what I'm saying? You mentioned earlier nonprofits. You got plenty of organizations out there that'll contribute to small business owners. And then you start talking about small businesses. How are you labeled and how are you categorized? Are you labeled as a minority business owner, a woman business owner, Hispanic, right? Because they got so many different categories out there for you. So then they put you in a different bracket of how you qualify to earn money, grants, and different things of that nature. Women-owned business up to almost $500,000 a year to $500 million a year put aside just for small business for women. So you start talking about being a business owner. What category do you fall into? And if you don't know those type of things, then you aren't a business owner. You're doing a hobby and expect to get paid for your hobby. And those are the differences. Is you have to know all those intricate roles and things. And what separates small business owners from the machine that we spoke about earlier, they have talented people to sit in each one of those positions. And you're probably sitting in the basement or an attic or at your crib trying to figure out every role to each one of those pieces. Right. Off the top of the dome, you're trying to figure it out. And that's not a good business mindset. And I'm not knocking anybody that thinks like that. I'm just saying it goes to the education and the lack of successful people that we have around us to pull from. You know what I'm saying? And that can be anybody from working at McDonald's, because I said this before, you had to at least work at the cash register at McDonald's in order to own a franchise. You had to work there. And the reason why you had to work there, so that way you can know how the franchise operates. So if you say you run a business, but you only know 2 or 3 things for the business, then you don't really own or run a business. So I think when we start talking about building a business from scratch, those are some of the issues. I think in totality, we aren't surrounding ourselves by the right people. And again, I use real estate because real estate's another one that you can, go get a certification and a license at the age of 18. And then now you potentially can run a $1 million business, or you could be potentially one of the most famous people on TikTok because you take a lot of videos and show a lot of houses. So there's two differences. One is not saying you're successful at being a realtor. The other one is saying you're successful at being a TikTok star. So again, words matter, and you start talking about the business aspect of it. I just think you start talking about different aspects that we don't cover in totality. And then when you mentioned what was it, the Gotta Have It? Or no, wait, that's too old. That was that was Reebok. You said what the name of the girl? The shit in the throat, girl, or something like that. I don't know what her name was.
Catch Me Outside. Oh, he said the hot tool.
Yeah, the hot tool girl. Yeah, so that's a great example, right? But that would be the gatekeepers saw potential, they saw talent, and they swooped in with a plan already and just plugged and play. And that's what the problem too is, as a small business owner, you're competing with businesses that have a plug and play model that can just put anybody in there and keep replicating that model over and over and over again. And you, again, for some reason, it's trying to start from scratch when everybody's already done the same thing over and over. So that's where also too, we might have the wrong business models because of the ego. We want to be original. We want to do our own thing. You know what I'm saying? We want to bite and copy off nobody else, but everybody else is plug and play, copy and play, and they're making millions and millions of dollars hands over feet. So
there's also, kind of going back to what was said a little bit earlier, there's reputation management, because you, especially as a business owner, kind of, I forgot who said it, but being a business owner is different than being an employee. With an employee, you are representing your company, but you're underneath the management of somebody else. But when you're the face of the business, even your actions will have an effect on how your business goes. And you can single-handedly ruin your business by choices that you make. There was an example, it was a couple years ago. It was in Arizona, I believe. I think it was like a pastry donut shop owner of some sort. She was filmed at, I think it was either at a school or a park. She was basically harassing somebody and saying racial slurs and all sorts of other stuff. And because of that moment, it was caught on camera. Eventually, she ended up closing her business because people were sending her harassing mail and people were boycotting her shop. And there were repercussions for her actions at her business because she was basically it was her own business. And she had a rough personality, to say the least. And she would be very hostile with customers that would come in asking her about that incident or like calling her out on that incident. And as I said, within a year, her shop was closed because of that whole incident. So and this also goes for like celebrities, because that's something that people don't consider as being a celebrity, being somebody that's famous. Your face now is your business. You have to manage how you act in public, how you act with other people, how you dress sometimes, depending on what you do, I guess. But how people perceive you can dramatically impact how your business goes, because you business owners can't forget, especially small business owners, they can't forget that they're not separate from their business. Even though they go home at the end of the day, customers don't see it that way. And if you reflect values that people don't stand with, they're not going to support your business. And so that's something that people also have to keep in mind, is you're constantly having to work on your image, work on your business's image, but they go hand in hand. And you have to, like, one bad day can ruin your business's reputation, even if it had nothing, even if you weren't at work. So that's something that it can get tiring, like, especially if you aren't a people person or something like that, which, or you might have different viewpoints from the public. Those are things that you'll kind of have to mask and hide from people, because being outward about certain opinions can trash your business, because people won't want to associate with those belief systems. Not to mention, you constantly have to self-improve when you're in these businesses. You can't, like, there's some cases where you can basically sell the same product and do fine. But you should also be evolving your business to match what the needs are of the time. People's interests will change. People's like, I think of food obviously as the example, because I love food, you know. But you're gonna have those classics that people come back for, but you'll also want to have different offerings over time. That way you can encourage new clientele, and you can encourage new forms of business from people like, oh yeah, I want to try that type of food and stuff like that. So you do have to allow yourself to evolve and not be stagnant and stuck in your ways. But just also, like Coach was saying, you also don't want to reinvent the wheel. Like, you shouldn't be like, I'm going to make this so crazy different that people just aren't even interested in it. You do have to pay attention to what the people want, because just because you want it doesn't mean that's something people are going to be willing to pay for.
One thing I want to add in addition to all of this is the fact that you depending on how you look at it, it could be a disadvantage or a handicap, or it could be the quickest distance between success and failure. And it's all in repetition. It's all in persistence. You starting from nowhere, like nowhere. I'll give you one real quick. Squish. I have a press. It wasn't the one that actually digitally creates the labels and stuff on the clothes. I got the one where you have to actually have the ink, you have to have the proper paper for it. You get your shirts, you design it however you want, and then you press it literally on the shirt, and then you distribute it like that. And I'm gonna tell you that was a pain in the ass. I did it for maybe a year, and this was before COVID. This was before COVID, and it did okay for a little bit. The problem was I didn't have the right team behind me to keep on pushing that out. Like, I'm basically selling this stuff out the trunk. So that was hella hard. And I ended up not doing it. I switched over to Store Frontier. It was an online store where they pretty much do all the passing out, sending orders out and all that. They get their percentage. You just basically create your design, send it to them. The orders come in. Seemed like it was all cool, but that site went off the face of the map. Couldn't do nothing else with it. And I haven't touched it since. I started to come back on Shopify. It's Shopify. When it all comes down to it, when you're doing all this stuff from the very beginning, you have to be everywhere all the time. Like, you'll be tired of shit. You don't want to do nothing. There's days where I'll get up and I don't feel like doing nothing. I just want to sleep. I just want to lay there. But you got to get up and you got to get this done, because The second that you don't do it, you're going to get comfortable. The more comfortable you get not doing it, the more delayed you're going to get, the more out of rotation you're going to get. You got to be practical. You got to know how to have conversations with people. You got to know how to network. You got to do thumbnails. You got to do artwork. Depending on what you're doing, you got to be hands-on, and you got to be consistently hands-on. This shit is not for the weak. Now, I've said this before, especially when it comes to like content creators, because they specifically, I relate more to the newer people, because I don't want you to think just because you attractive or whatever the case may be that is just going to jump off like that. It's not that simple, you know. And even if you do just randomly get that 1 million view page or whatever, you just, now what? Now what? Sydney said it, and I remember 2 TV shows back in the 90s, and they would have those scenes where the man or the woman is in the office. I give you another one, Martin, where Gina and Pam had to talk in front of the people about promoting brands and commercials and stuff. You got to have all types of exciting things to present to them. You can sell the same thing over and over again, but what is it that's going to make them want to continue to invest in you? Snickers has been around for forever. Coca-Cola, Pepsi, all of them. From the only thing they might change, they might add cherry to it. They might add root beer to it. They might add, like, they try to rebrand it in Blue Magic. Oh, right. Oh. Yeah. Some of that stuff do got Coke in it, though. I ain't even gonna hold you. You don't know what you eating or drinking for real. But like, it's a consistency that comes with this shit. And it's not going to always be pretty. Sometimes you're going to be frustrated. Sometimes you're going to be exhausted. But if you do manage to just get that 100K, 200K, now what you going to do? How do you keep that going? I yield the mic.
Get in there, Rob.
Oh man, first let me apologize and say sorry to my European people, man. I just came from Spain, loved it. Been to Italy. My favorite place in the whole wide world is
Italy?
Yeah.
What part?
We went to Florence, we went to Rome, and we went to Naples.
Okay.
Love it. Love y'all. There's no disrespect. I guess I said that in a way. First of all, it's people with no talent in every culture, including mine. Half of the time when I rap, I ain't got no talent. I ain't finna hold you. A lot of trash songs I be listening to that I put out about 50 songs. Only about 10 of them is good. So I guess I'm just a little jealous. I'm just a little jealous that other cultures support each other, even if the product or the service is horrible. Y'all support each other. Y'all get to it. So that came out of jealousy. I love everybody, man. No disrespect to anybody. Y'all right on point with the you got to be everywhere and all of that, and the difference between being a worker and being an owner. You're absolutely right. And I got a very good friend who grew up, was raised by business owners. And to be honest with you, for the last 4 years, he's been telling me, man, you don't even want to start a business. I don't care what it is. He's like, man, you work so hard, you're going to be aggravated. Ain't nobody making no money. He was telling me how his parents would own a specific franchise, and they will only make like 17 cents off every product they sell. He's like, my people was angry. They worked 100 hours, 150 hours a week, whether it was a franchise or they own. And he's like, bro, you want to keep teaching. You might as well do this. He said the number 2 millionaires in the world right now is the teachers. And that's because they save up for 30 years straight. And, he's coming from a perspective where he knows, and he decided to be a teacher. And that, I got a disconnect in my head because I'm like, well, you came from it. Y'all had it. Whoop, whoop, whoop. At least but I'm hearing them at the same time. I don't want to listen because I'm like, bro, I need to get this paper. That's the only thing in my head. The money. And a lot of times, sometimes I'm able to sit back and say, you know what, whatever comes with that money, you really don't want. Because I'm watching people. And it seems like for our culture, especially, as soon as they get to the money, that's when all hell breaks loose. Like I'm watching as far as the rap, I'm watching these young guys, as soon as they get their record deal, now they got charges, they got this, that everybody's airing their business. As soon as they get, it don't be no problem until they sign that deal. Now it's like the whole world's crashing down, and now you catching charges. And seems like nobody's able to have a positive relationship. And then I'm hearing from the people that have business owners as parents how there was like this love-hate thing because the parents wasn't there. And I understand. They're like, yo, you want to live? I got to work to supply this lifestyle for you or whatever. But at the same time, a lot of them is not feeling love. You know what I'm saying? The kids is coming up a little messed up in the game from the. And here we go. I had to get out the hood, and we worked to get out the hood. And then at the end of the day, a lot of times in the hood, you don't realize you had love in the household. So you was rich at the same time. You had more love in the household because all of the people that was making the money was going through it and putting each other through it. So it's a balance, but I got a little voice in my head that won't let me quit. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, so every day it's like, okay, well, you do this, you could just chill. And I have people call me all the time. They're like, bro, I don't think you see the value of what you do every day or how much time you put in to those kids, how much time you putting in. So you're really successful, heavy. And I'm still like, being like, I'm trying to take care of the whole family. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to go back to Italy. Like I need this paper. And at the end of the day, I've been rapping for about 9 years now. I've been selling hair for 10 years. And I ain't cashed a rap check yet. So, you got the one side saying, hey, bro, hang it up. You could just go ahead and at least you tried, do something else. But then you got the other side is like, nah, man, what you talking about, man? They said one good song could change your life. I got to sell 1 million copies. And then you look at the artist and it's like, that's the last thing they do. That's the last form of income that comes in for artists is the record sales. So I wanted to talk about this again because how do you balance without going crazy? How do you develop that self-esteem and the belief in yourself to know that you're on the right track when all of it feels like it's not going right?
Let me ask you to repeat that last part, just so I can be clear on your question. You said about the self-esteem piece. Repeat that for me if you don't mind.
Oh yeah, the self-esteem. How do you balance feeling like you on the right track? Because as an artist or with anything, you have this day where you feel like, man, I'm the man. I got it. It's just like a lot of times when I record a track, I record a song, and for 2-3 days straight, I'm bumping it. Whoa, 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 whoa. This hot. This gonna be top 20. And then I send it to 5 of my friends, and they like, man, that's garbage, bro. What was you thinking? Da 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 da. You know what I'm saying? So how do you balance to where when you feeling like you're not getting any headway, what is, you know what I mean? You'll be in your own head. What is the balance to know? Okay.
Oh yeah, man, I got you. That's easy money, baby. Listen, man. To just a quick recap, because we talked about. I had started out by saying the difference between talent and management, and everybody kind of went around, and we kind of all read off the roles and responsibilities of everybody that's on the team. But it's about identifying the roles and responsibilities, and then I hate to do this, but we'll use LeBron as an example. You know what I mean? He sent this squad to school. They went and got educated. They went and worked around the best people. And when they were ready, they came back and started a brand in the business. So I think one of the big things is especially with this social media age, is everybody got and then with the PPP and everything else around COVID, it didn't help. But everybody got so excited to run out there and start a business, start a brand. I don't think they started a brand, but I think they started a business. They started a PPP, LLC, S corp, etc. And then all those other intangibles come with the team. Again, those roles and responsibilities. So if you're trying to do all those things yourself, that just means you're a bad leader. You don't know how to delegate. You don't know how to pick and choose to have the solid people around you. And then you got trust issues because you're trying to do all this shit yourself. So again, that's a self-sabotaging mechanism within itself. So I would say before you start a business, to make sure you got all of those things taken care of, and talk to a business manager or a business consultant, because you can go out there and be great at what you're doing, and you can get loans, you can get all these things and still fail as a business person. A lot of people talk shit about Donald Trump, how many times he filed bankruptcy. But if you know anything about business, bankruptcy is there for as a resource and a tool. So again, you know, talking about those types of things. And then success is about perspective, right? What do you deem to be a success? The glass is half full, the glass is half empty. Do you see losses? Do you see lessons? What is it that you see? Because that's what's going to help you be able to get back up every day and move forward. It's how you view success. And that's why we often say and you're an educator, so I'm sure you've thought this or said this at some point, but there's a teaching or learning moment in everything that we do. No matter what, there's an education value, there's a teaching value, there's something teachable. It's a teachable moment within everything that we're doing. So even as we get older, I think as we understand that, as we get older, we don't stop learning. We may get more stubborn or frustrated, more closed-minded, but then we stop growing. So if you got a business, entrepreneur spirit and mindset, you know you can't stop growing because you're taking care of a team of individuals that work for you and for that common goal, that objective, and what that mission is, whatever that mission statement is. So I think, again, we're talking about mindsets. And there's a difference when you've been a W-2 employee and you earn 2.5 days off a month, and you've been a 1099 employee and every day you're unemployed, you got to get up and find work, and you got to find a source of what that meal is going to be, whether you're going to get something to eat, you're working for, a good look, you're working for, $2.99 jumbo jacks or whatever it is in your neighborhood that you eating, some 6 wings and some mild sauce, some mambo sauce, whatever it is, you know what I mean? But if you've been out there struggling, you may have had to compromise some work for food or some other things and not necessarily got what you want in return. And that's a part of the struggle. And I think that's what builds the experience, that's what builds the relationship, and that's what builds a story. And that's what is going to help you be successful, because that's what keeps you humble, right? You can go out there and you can get and become an instant hit or one hit wonder or whatever. And all those things can also work out equally as well. Also, I'm not saying it's the only way to go through it, but I think it's one way that we all can resonate with it is, and then just allow yourself some grace. I would say that before I pass over the mic, not in real life. Don't be so hard on yourself, because you've never done this before. This is your first time at it, or at least the first time that you remember it, depending on if you feel like you're in a simulation or not. This is the first time you've gone through that experience and you retain that information. Give yourself some grace and allow yourself the opportunity to learn from it, because you're not going to know everything. And Sid, pass it over to you.
2 things that I was thinking of during this part of the conversation. One thing that you also have to have that people kind of neglect or won't outsource to other people, which can cost them, is the financial knowledge, because doing finances as a household is very different than doing finances as a business, and you can't really fuse the two. Like, you have to file differently, especially for taxes. And I know one thing that people don't do, they even do, like, they do it with their household, but they also, I've heard of people doing this with their business, where they don't set aside money for taxes. And so when it comes to tax season, they realize they're actually in hole because they didn't actually account for the money that they would have to put in for taxes. And that's something that, sadly, a lot of Americans just aren't educated about in general, is the whole tax process. And as a business owner, you're going to have to do more in-depth work for your taxes than you would just as an individual. And so it's important to outsource that type of help and not be as, I forgot which one of you said it, but not be stubborn and like, I'm going to do it all myself, because a lot of these things, it's better to get an expert who knows what they're doing, where you can do damage to yourself, to your finances, to your business. Another thing I think people struggle with too, is when they do become successful. Like a lot of, I've kind of noticed that a lot of people think the end goal is becoming famous or successful. And so once they hit that stage, they either fall off the wagon because they're like, oh, well, I made it and I don't have any goals past this, so I don't really know what to do or how to handle it. Or it, because they've reached their goal, they just kind of are like, well, there's no more, like, it'll just sustain itself now. Now that I'm famous or now that I'm successful, I don't have to put in as much work. But that's not true. It's like, you have to put in the same amount of work, if not more, once you've reached that level, because you have to maintain it. It's not like, I've noticed this true also with like out of touch influencers, where they get millions of followers, millions of views, and then they have a lull where not as many people are watching, and they're upset. They're like complaining to their viewers, like, why aren't people watching me? I put out this content and people just stop watching, and they blame their viewers for not getting the views. And it's like, okay, you made it, good for you, but it's not up to the viewers to sustain your whole shtick. It's up to you. And if you're not reaching viewers, you have to change what you're doing. And you can't go out there blaming other people because they're not sustaining your business for you. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't get, is they want the sense of accomplishment without, as we've said during this podcast, without the actual work involved to get that accomplishment. And we forget that accomplishments are fleeting. They're not something that once you're accomplished, you're going to be accomplished for the rest of your life. It's not like an award that once you get this award, you're always going to have that. You have to keep working at it and make sure that you continue to put in the work that got you in that place in the beginning. So the grind does not stop just because you've become successful. It continues, it escalates, and it honestly can get harder because, as I said, you have to manage your reputation. And once more people know of you, you have to be extra careful with your reputation, because then instead of 100 people getting mad at something you said, you could have 100,000 people posting all over the internet about something that you said or did. So it's just because you make it doesn't mean it's going to be easier. And I think that's an assumption a lot of people have, which is why we have all of these people, particularly young people like teens, early 20s, that think that, oh, all I have to do is be famous and then I'm set. But it's also why we see so many people that basically go bankrupt after they make it big. They win the lottery, they get a record deal, they make a whole bunch of money all at once. And then they basically lose it all. They lose their house, they lose their whatever, because they're like, in their head, this is just going to continue. I'm just going to keep going up from here. But that's not always the case. And so you really have to manage your expectations and understand that, again, success is fleeting, and you have to assume that that type of success is not going to always be there for you. It's not like a job where if you get a raise, you're going to keep getting that amount of money in the future, sans losing your job. When you run a business or you run your own thing, it's going to be up and down. You're going to have months that are really high and months that are not. And you have to factor that in, and you can't just assume once you get a certain amount of money, it's always going to be that or above, because it's not. Mute.
Last thing I want to add before we go. First and foremost, I want to go around and say that everybody, you said an earful, and I'm grateful. I'm humble. I appreciate the words of wisdom. One factor that we don't really acknowledge is the fear factor, right? You're going to be told by a lot of people that the risk is not worth the reward. You're going to be told by a lot of people in their own way that they believe in you, but they're like, I still don't know. Like, you might want to, yeah. And then you're going to be very hesitant about going all in because of the fear and the consequences of what if. And I think that stops a lot of people from even going hard or going all the way through with embracing what they actually want to do. If you're going to do it, you can't listen to everybody. Your counsel, the people that sit at that table with you, they got to be solid. They can't be yes men. They can't be worldly. They have to be legit. They're going to tell you about the good side and the bad. If you're going to do it, make sure you do it because this is something that you actually want to do. No matter what the results look like. It could be a season where you're just in a drought. You still got to push through it. It's going to be a bunch of backstabbing. It's going to be a bunch of this, that, and the third. And Rob, you had said it earlier. And I learned the hard way with that same scenario where you're expecting, oh, we the same complexion, so this should be easy. Nah, it ain't at all. A lot of times your family not even going to support you, so you're going to have to accept the fact that you got to push through no matter what anybody thinks or says, because if it's for you, nobody's going to be able to stop that. God is not going to open the door for the enemy to shut it. Pray about it. Stay consistent on that wall. Keep your mind clear. Keep your spirit clear. Remove things from around you that might hinder your thinking from elevating. Face your fear, man. That's all I'm gonna say. Face your fear. Break through. People say to me all the time, in my face, off camera, all that. Don't do this. Stop doing that. I don't care about none of that. You're just making me want to do it more because I already know I'm capable of it. So it's really all up to you, but not to step on anybody else's toes. I just had to add that in there. I do thank everybody for being here this evening. If there's no other thoughts before we close out, shout outs to Squish Arcanis, shout outs to Chef,
I just want to add something. It's more so humorous, but two short pieces of advice. One, Just manifesting doesn't work. You can't just sit there and think about something and expect it to happen. So you do have to put in work. And two, again, I always say this, don't get advice from AI. Get advice from real people, real business owners, people who've done this before. I promise you, it'll help you to ask real people and not the internet. The internet can help, but talk to real people.
Hey, real quick, thank you, Chef, man, and your song "Angels." That's on heavy rotation, repeat every single day, giving people their flowers. And then shout out Squish, I'll be vibing to the beats all day, riding to work and all that. So y'all being here ain't going in vain.
I love it. I love it. I tried. Hey, we working. And I'm, you know what? I'm about to go back in the studio. I just learned how to do my editing from the laptop. I was doing all of my little cuts and stuff off my phone, so I got complacent and lazy, bro. I know. That's a no, man. I finally learned how to use the laptop. It's up. You about to see a whole lot of crazy shit. Yes, you are. Just watch. Practice makes perfect. And I'm determined, you know what I'm saying? So this about to be one of them years, man. Y'all keep doing y'all. I hope y'all got something out of this evening's conversation. Do me a solid before y'all go.
What's the goddamn button?
Peace.